Hello there and welcome to another exciting day in our galaxy. Today I want to give you a quick overview over the most important factions, and that's Federation, Klingon and Romulans. Because especially in the start of the game, those are the important factions for you, and they will accompany you through the whole game no matter what level you are. And you see on the top left of the screen at the moment, there's this list with the small round symbols with ships, officers, command, factions, items, and refinery. And there we click on factions. And there you see on the left, there's the Federation, Klingon, Romulan, but there's also Augment, Rogue, Bajoran, and Exborg. About the others, we talk in different videos. Today I want to talk about Federation, Klingon and Romulan because they are interconnected as well. If you want to get the good stuff in this faction store which you see now, you need to get a better reputation with a faction. To do that, you can do missions. There are missions for Klingons, there are missions for Romulans, and there are missions for Federation. And you can shoot hostiles from the other factions, because that's what I said with interconnected. If you shoot a Federation hostile, for example, you lose reputation with the Federation, but you gain reputation with the Klingons and the Romulans, but to a certain extent, because they have each one has their own arch enemy. I will show you in a hostile later what that means. But with rising reputation, you can buy stuff here in the shop. And that includes officers. You see, you can have Federation recruit stuff here and many other things, but it also includes faction ships. Faction ships are really important in this game. As you know, I will talk about the different ships in different videos, but you will need them. And so you have to decide what you go for. The first one with the Federation is the Mayflower here, for example, and you see the next one is the Saladin, and they all require different levels of reputation. You have different steps to go through. You start at neutral, but as soon as you kill one of the hostiles, you go into the negative as well. And so you have to really watch out who you're shooting out there. Because if you choose one of the three to go with, you have to make sure you only shoot hostiles from the others. And that's a big point where there's a lot of discussion. I tested it both over time. This is not my first server I'm playing on, and I tested it both. Some people are saying you can bring up two factions at the same time and just leave one behind, and others say only do one faction and ignore the other two. It's easier. And from my experience with doing both versions on different servers, it is really the version concentrate on one faction and bring it up, because when you're new to that game and get started, the first is really hard because you don't get so much reputation from the hostiles because they're so low and so on. And only do this faction until the faction lock. There will be a faction lock at a certain point of reputation. I will make a video on the locks as well. But the important part is until this lock, do this one faction and ignore the other two. Just shoot the hostiles from the other two. And then you will rise through the different levels, and with the different levels you get different things here in the shop you can buy. You see I'm at Celebrated at a little bit over the 10 million. 10 million is the lock, I can spoil that already. And I am not Celebrated yet. You see those are the dark parts here. This is a reputation I haven't earned with the Federation yet, and so I cannot buy the things that are needed. I'm not admired, I'm not esteemed, so it goes up until champion here at the moment, but it goes higher until legend, and there's the end at the moment. But I can only buy what is what you see up enlightened here, so brightened up. and all the other things I cannot buy. With Klingons, it looks a bit different. I am glorified with the Klingons, so it goes further down. And so I am working on the Katinga at the moment. I'm looking forward to make that video. And that means I'm very close to champion already. Close means that I have a lot of millions of reputation to go through. But the next step will be at 192 million more reputation. So I am at 247.5 million reputation, and I have to go another 192 million and a half more reputation to reach glorified. And that's the thing you go through all the time, but what you get there is really important. And the point is, when you get your starting reputation from the zero higher, from some point you get dailies as well, and you get daily events. I cannot show you the dailies, but I've shown them on my daily videos because I did the dailies already. But there are also daily events. Not in the event store, it's under events. And there is the daily events. Click it, and then you also have faction events. As soon as you reach enough reputation with one faction, you get those daily events. And they bring you credits, and they bring you reputation as well. So this is one way of getting reputation, the daily events. The other one is your normal dailies. There you have to shoot hostiles from one of the other two factions, and you have to mine the certain material that is important for this faction. For the Federation, it's gas. For the Romulans, it's ore. And for the Klingons, it's crystal. And as I mentioned earlier, shooting hostiles brings you reputation and makes you lose reputation. So if you are going for the Federation first, which most do that do this game for the first time, and if they watched Star Trek, and of course I picked one without Romulans, then you have the people are going for Federation mostly the first time. I did the same when I played it for the first time, and then you will shoot Romulans or Klingons. But I want to show you one thing. If you shoot a Romulan trader, for example, I picked a level 20 for the starters here. You see the faction symbols. You see the Federation, the Romulans, and the Klingons, and you see the arrow going up for the Klingons and the Federation, but down for the Romulans. And if you look at the rewards, you get 4 Federation reputation, you get 10 Klingon reputation, and minus 36 Romulan reputation. So you lose much more than you gain on the other reputation. But you see, the Klingons get more than the Federation. So shooting Romulan hostiles is only good if you are doing the Klingons, because the Romulans in this game are, so to speak, the arch enemies of the Klingons, but not of the Federation. And that means if you want to do the Federation, you have to go to Klingon space, which is the red one. I picked a higher here. I should have picked another 20. And then you can see that this is worth it for the Federation. You see there, you get 10 for the Federation, only 6 for the Romulans, and minus 40 for the Klingons. But the Klingons are, so to speak, the arch enemy of the Federation, and so you get more reputation here than as if you would go hunting Romulans. There's one important thing about this. You will not lose reputation, which is always an important point, if you do Armadas. Yes, Armadas are playing a role in this faction game as well, because on Armadas you gain reputation. But you see here on the screen again next to the rewards that there's a plus for Romulan and a plus for Klingon, but there's no reputation loss for the Federation. If I click it, you see how much you get for Romulan or Klingons, but you also see there is no loss for the Federation. So if you're going for the Federation as your faction, you can do Federation Armadas without worrying about it. Of course, if you do the Armadas if you do Klingon Armadas, you gain more reputation. But at least if you do Federation Armadas with your friends from your alliance, you don't lose anything. So you don't have to worry about that one. And then you will grow in time. And as I said, I always want to give you a quick overview on those basic videos. But that's the point with the main 3 factions. And you will stay on it for the rest of the gameplay. And choose wisely how you start with it. A lot of people really like the Federation, but the other 2 have their advantages. This time I started with the Romulans, for example. I mean, Romulans are cool, but also Romulans very early on, like the Klingons, have a cloaking device you can get for the ships. With the Federation, you have to wait a very long time to get a ship with a cloaking device, because the first one is the Enterprise, which you need a long time for to get there, because that's level 34. So you have to play for quite some time before you, for the first time, can use a cloaking device. And cloaking devices are fun, and they have dailies as well. So think carefully which faction you want to bring up. If it's just because you like the people, you like the ships, then do the Federation. If you like other aspects, have a look on the others, like the cloaking, for example. But choose wisely. And as I said, I really suggest that you do one faction at a time. And there will be a lock, as I said, at 10 million, but I'll make an extra video about that again. And then you can start with the next one. And the good thing is, I already will mention it now, you never fall under -2 million. So it will not be as bad as if you reach 10 million on the first. The other 2 are at -10 million. It's not that bad, just 2 million. And for those 2 million are one reason why I always say something very important to everyone starting. And I kept this advice for the end of this video. Choose your faction and then don't do any mission from the other factions until you start with those factions. Keep them in your archive or keep them on their locations and just mark the locations in your system, but don't do them. You will need those missions from the factions when you start those factions later and want to bring them out of those 2 million minus reputation. So if you do Federation as your first faction, don't do any Romulan mission. Don't do any Klingon mission. And those missions show you as well how it is. You see, there are the Klingon symbols. And the Federation missions have the Federation symbol, and the Romulan missions the Romulan symbol. You can see it in my archive, because I archived some as well for other reasons, because I'm at a higher level now, but I'm still keeping those missions for later. When I reach the next lock, I will bring the other 2s with me, and for that I'm keeping those missions. You see, they are all Federation and Romulan missions in here, and I haven't done them. And that's what, especially in the beginning of the game, you shouldn't do. Don't do any missions from the other 2 factions before you reached your first lock. When you then start with the second, do their missions. But that's the important part. Put those missions in your archive, or remember, mark down here in the system. You can save locations, save the locations of the missions here, but don't do them. That's my most important advice on the faction reputation, to be honest, because many made that mistake because they wanted those resources or whatever you get from the missions, but they made their life much harder. And that was just an introduction in the factions, but I hope I could help you a bit. If you want to know more about buildings, ships, territory, whatever, the next video is right here in the end screen. I'll see you there. I'll be back.